Welcome to the PIO podcast, a place for all things public information related for police, fire, EMS, and local government. An open forum to learn, grow, and develop your public information skills. Your host, Robert Tornabene, is a public information officer with over 10 years in the field and 27 years of law enforcement background. In each episode, we will explore different aspects of the public information officer profession. Weekly, we will delve into the field of public information by talking to other PIOs. So sit back and enjoy this episode.
Good afternoon. Today we are here with Amanda Hunter. She's a public information officer for the Pasco County Sheriff's Office in Florida. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's really great having you on. Pasco County has been kind of something an agency I've watched for several years now.
Thank you.
And I really like what you guys are doing down there. So there's a lot of questions I have to ask you, but first I want to know a little bit about you. So how long have you been in the position?
So I've been in the public information manager position since September of last year, but I've been with the agency in a PIO capacity since December of 2018. But we had an opportunity in our agency where our previous public information director actually took another position within the agency. He is overseeing our public records unit, he has a lot of experience in that, and it was a really good fit for him. So I had the opportunity to sort of step into that role, and it's been off and running ever since.
Nice. Now, before you were at Pasco, were you at another agency?
I wasn't. So I've had an interesting path into law enforcement. Whenever I talk to other PIOs or other people in law enforcement, they're always sort of surprised about my path here. But before I was at Pasco, I was at a theme park just south of here in Tampa at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. And before that, I was in the sports industry for several years. So my background is in marketing and publicity, which I think is sort of a different approach to being a PIO. I know there's a lot of former reporters or people who are in law enforcement who, became interested in the PIO world and started into that. But I have a very different path. That's not to say it wasn't applicable because working at a theme park that has live animals, has roller coasters, there's a different set of scenarios that go on there. And of course, the sports world has its own sort of thing going on as well.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. That's good to know. So how many people, since you're the manager, how many people are in the office in the public information unit?
Yeah. So I am the one person who is full-time media relations in our agency. That being said, I also oversee our social media team, which consists of 3 additional people. I am very fortunate in that one of our social media people, our social media lead, she helps me by taking on-call nights and weekends sometimes for the media relations side, which is nice to get a little bit of a break. That doesn't mean I get to have a full break from it. I'm still glued to my phone all the time, unfortunately, but it is nice to kind of have a little bit of a break. But other than that, there are a grand total of 4 people in our public information unit, 3 of which focus solely on social media.
And social media is a big part of your outreach and your platforms that you guys work with, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of, like I said, a majority of our public information unit focuses on social media. So it's definitely one of our focuses. It takes up a lot of our time, and it's something we, not only that, feel very passionately about. We've recently transitioned to breaking news on social media and doing a lot more things than just posting dog pictures, which is what we were previously known for. But we're looking at ways to use social media in a very different light to inform the public.
Cool. So the 3 social media staff members, are they sworn, civilian?
No, we're all civilian in my unit.
Okay.
So they are previous. They've all been in law enforcement. They all have sort of a law enforcement background, but none of them have ever been certified. But they have they've been working in Pasco for longer than I have.
Okay.
So that's really nice to have their sort of expertise and familiarization with the agency. It's really helpful in our position.
Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about this crime prevention initiative that you guys you made it go viral. And this is that 9 p.m. routine, which I'm sure most agencies now across the U.S. have seen it. I saw it a few years ago and adopted it in my agency. But you guys do some very unique stuff. And you put a map out every night. There's interaction constantly. And I was always amazed at the volume you're putting out. So
Yeah.
how did that all come about?
So that's a great question. I feel like a lot of places have a large issue with auto burglaries, especially from unlocked vehicles. So as we all know, especially in law enforcement, the path of least resistance to a crime is usually the easiest one for a criminal. So being that if you just walk around and pull on door handles, then they'll steal your stuff. So our big push was to lock your doors because that's going to reduce a lot of crime. However, we really wanted to get people engaged in that because just telling them is not going to work. You know, they're going to be like, all right, yeah, I'll lock it or I'll forget or whatever. So we really wanted people to sort of build a habit of doing it and feel like they had to do something once they did that to kind of make it more worthwhile. So that's when we started our big 9 p.m. routine push. That's sort of the end of the night. You're, getting ready to go to bed, getting ready for bed, maybe walking the dog for the last time. And once you come in, do the 9 p.m. routine, lock your doors, make sure your garages are closed, your windows are closed and locked, and then check in with us on social media so that we can give you a virtual high five, check in with your state on a map, and that we put that out through Twitter especially, but we do some on the other platforms as well. But just sort of like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Just sort of like a check-in and accountability sort of thing as well. And it really took off and people are very passionate about it. We have people who, we engage with people on Twitter between 8 and 10 p.m. Just, sort of making sure they're getting ready for it or they're already doing it. But we've had people check in super early, like 4 p.m. early because they're just so excited, especially with the pandemic and people not leaving the house as much. But it's really incredible to see the people who are so passionate about it, who are just so excited to check in with us and get their state on the map or get their country on the map. We have people who, I know Brazil checks in regularly, which is really cool to see, and then some European countries, and just to see the spread and how much impact, not only on the social media side, because that's super cool to ever see all the check-ins from around the world, but just to know that we're having an impact on crime prevention. Obviously, we're in the crime prevention. PIO is under crime prevention in our agency. And just knowing that it all comes back to possibly reducing victimization, which the sheriff is very passionate about, it's incredible to see that sort of take off.
I agree. This whole phenomenon, the 9 p.m. routine, it sparked all kinds of things. The really cool memes. Yep. You guys have all kinds of, you had dog tags too that I saw that you guys had created. And those are things that, again, are ways to remind people, the visual reminder, the memes, you guys come up with some original ones, some really cool ones.
We have a lot of dogs that we get to use, and sometimes we try to make our own memes out of them.
There you go. Was this based on any of the other, like a previous crime prevention initiative somewhere else? Because I think I remember one of the radio stations down in Florida used to do, or TV stations used to do, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are at? If I'm not mistaken, is that Miami or Broward County area?
Yeah, I want to say it's down in the southeast a little bit. To the best of my knowledge, no, it was just really something we were in the process of redoing our social media. We really wanted to get people engaged on social media. At the same time, we wanted to find a way to help mitigate this problem we were seeing in the county and still continue to see. So we started it with a social media initiative and just saying, hey, what can we do to get people to interact with us, but also prevent crime? And the really cool part about it is, in the wake of the pandemic, we've had to be creative, right? So we've not done a lot of community events where we spread the message of the 9 p.m. routine, not only through social media, but in the community when we're talking to people. But since we haven't had that, we've expanded now to radio commercials as well as television commercials. Since we haven't been spending our money on community events, we've met people where they are essentially, and that's been on TV and radio. Nice. It's a great way to use the money, so use it so you don't lose it, because otherwise it goes bye-bye. So you might as well use it. Yeah, that's a great way to rework a budget when you can. Yeah. And hey, if it gets more people to lock their doors, and we have a very diverse county that has a lot of different issues, and um, these the weird thing about Pasco, or not, I shouldn't say weird, the great thing about Pasco is it's rapidly expanding. So we have a lot of people who are moving here from other counties or neighboring jurisdictions. And we've really had a big push to get people to do that with all these brand new neighborhoods and apartment complexes. Locking your doors is something we're very passionate about.
Now Pasco is north of Hillsborough. Is that correct?
Just north. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I did a lot of training with the sheriff's department down in Hillsborough. I
Okay.
worked with them on a few of their school programs for their SRDs. So
Nice.
I'm very familiar with the area. And I actually think I had one of your deputies in one of my trainings in one of the classes years ago. I mean, this is 15 years ago.
Nice.
All right. So you guys you mentioned Twitter, you mentioned Facebook. What other social media platforms do you guys operate?
We're on, as well as those two, we're really big on Instagram. Obviously we love pictures, so being on Instagram is great for us. We're looking at new ways. We're sort of going into a social media rebrand and looking at different ways to use all the platforms, and Instagram has been a really big focus for us. We are fortunate enough to have a lot of really good photography, as well as different ways to communicate our message. So Instagram's been really good for us. We've previously been on Snapchat and TikTok. Those are good platforms, but it didn't really feel authentic for us to be on it. So we've kind of taken a step back from those and kind of are reevaluating it, especially in the pandemic. And then we're also on YouTube. We are, again, sort of taking a pause on YouTube, but YouTube's been very advantageous for us as well.
All right, so I want to go back. I want to ask a question about TikTok and Snapchat. You said it didn't feel authentic. What didn't you like about it? Because I know the platform tends to be a little younger. It attracts a younger crowd, that teenager to mid-20s something crowd. That would be a great area to grab, I would think.
It is, yeah. It's, to us, it's more, we don't want to be engaging on that platform until we really know how to talk to that audience. So it's something we're constantly evaluating and looking at best practices for. Unfortunately, we just haven't found that sweet spot yet. And a lot of the content we were pushing out was a lot of the same that we were pushing out on Twitter. Obviously, Twitter and TikTok have very different voices. Right. So we're evaluating it. We've been quiet on the platform especially in the wake of the pandemic, but we constantly evaluate any kind of platform, and that's something we'll look at again and hopefully find a better way to speak on that platform.
Okay. Hey, you got to do it. I mean, if it doesn't, you don't feel it's working, you got to look at it in a different way. Yeah. Right. So you talked about an overhaul for social media. What does that all entail? What is it? What does that mean? An overhaul says I'm getting rid of some things and I'm bringing something else in.
Sure. So we had previously been on, especially when it comes to platforms like Facebook and Twitter, it was always quantity over quality. And of course, algorithms change over the years and different things are rewarded differently. So late fall last year, we started really looking at those platforms, especially in the pandemic. I hate to keep going back to that, but that's what our lives are all about these days, right? Mm-hmm. So we started really evaluating what we were doing on there and the impact it was having. So instead of posting every hour like we used to, was it more impactful to say post less, but maybe those are longer form posts? So maybe it's a gallery post, or maybe it's a post with a longer form caption like, hey, here's what this unit's doing, or here's this canine that you know and love, but here's what this canine does and when they started working, and maybe they've won awards and things like that. So we have really taken the approach of looking at our social platforms as a way to inform and educate the public, especially with the events of last summer. We felt like that was the one area we were missing. We have a lot of support on our social platforms, but is there an opportunity for us to tell our story better, which is, sort of the marketing background coming in as well, needing the publicity side.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, you have to look at it that way. Were you looking at any analytics or statistics coming off of the platforms to see?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were looking at the posts and they were starting to sort of engagement, because we had so many posts, they didn't really have a time to sit and sort of build a little bit, that we felt we were kind of canceling ourselves out by just having so many. So when we took a look at it, decided to sort of take a step back from the quantity of posts that we were putting out, we thought this is a good opportunity for us to really take the time, since we're not posting as much, really take the time and say, hey, here's what we do. Here's full transparency. The sheriff loves transparency. We put out body-worn camera a lot. We were one of the first agencies in Florida to have body-worn cameras. We were on television show where they followed us around all the time as well. So we're really big on transparency, and we felt that we were sort of missing the mark on social media, and we're missing especially an opportunity for us to really tell our story about some of the things that maybe people don't see every day.
Okay. And so in regards to the posting, okay, so you guys were putting out hourly, which is a lot. That's a big volume. That's a constant boom, boom, boom. How did you feel about it, did you see the engagement drop, or did you couldn't tell just because it was next post pop up, and
I think it was more of a slow decline, because we can see the analytics right in front of us when we were looking at the posts. But I think the more telling thing was when we started posting less and actually started doing these more fuller posts, that you saw the engagement really go back up. So we found that with the more quality posts, people were really liking those, and you see the engagement. Even we were just looking at Instagram yesterday and talking about some of the different ways we're trying to post, by like tagging locations or having gallery posts, which we hadn't previously used. Those are sort of things that are really helping our engagement, and you're seeing actually the engagement go back up.
So do you guys use a content calendar or any kind of calendar to plan what you're doing month to month?
So yes and no. We do have a couple of target dates that we sort of keep in mind. We do have a social media lead who directs 2 social media coordinators, as well as myself. And we have a bi-weekly meeting where we discuss any big things that are happening. We're in constant contact with each other, which is really nice. We have a very collaborative office. So we do sort of talk about, like yesterday I had a post that I needed to put up, but I know the social media coordinators were also planning their day as well. So we're really good at communicating. We don't use a solid calendar, but we do sort of have dates in advance.
Cool. So I saw a post on your website that said you guys were suspending any new posts to your YouTube channel until after the end of the pandemic.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that?
Yeah, so we made that when we thought the pandemic wasn't going to be that long. And
right.
Look how that's
yeah,
working.
we're just past that year, right?
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point to bring up, because originally we wanted to lead by example. So if anyone's ever watched our YouTube channel, we're very out in the community and out with deputies and out with different units. So we wanted to lead by example and sort of take a step back from us engaging with a lot of different people in the community, to say, hey, lead by example. We're going to take a step back from doing all that, and put a pause on it until the pandemic's under control. Fast forward to now, we are actually starting to reevaluate how we use that channel. And again, going back to the educate and inform sort of guardrails that we're using for social media now, starting to use that channel in a different light. So producing longer form videos instead of shorter ones that we've done previously, and really get into one topic. So we're starting that slowly but surely in a socially distant, COVID safe environment. So stay tuned. You'll see that soon, I hope.
Well, I mean, that's okay, because at least you were thinking about the whole social aspect of it, about dealing
Absolutely.
with the changes that were going on in people's lives, and you felt we can't really be posting video of us out in the community when people aren't supposed to be out running around anyways. So
absolutely,
that's a good listening technique to do with your community.
Yeah, and it worked out too, because I believe shortly after we put the pause on YouTube, county came out with the mask mandate and several restrictions on gatherings and things of that nature. So we were almost ahead of the county on that a little bit. And so you want to listen to your audience, because if your audience, I mean, we took a step back from having multiple people in pictures, even if they've been previously, taken before the pandemic. People don't want to see that. Even if we note that it's taken pre-pandemic, people still feel that that's encouraging people to gather, especially right at the beginning of the pandemic. So we really listened to our audience and said, hey, we hear you. We want to lead by example. We want to be leaders in our community, and that's what we're going to do.
So did you guys have any issues during the unrest over the summer with protests?
Not so much in our community. We do have not gatherings. I'm on the gathering train now, but so we still proactively reached out to community groups within Pasco. We have a really strong relationship with Pasco NAACP. They partner together with us to do food distributions within the community, which that's a need where the community that the community has. So we've been doing a lot of those since late last fall. We are fortunate that we have a lot of great support, and credit to the sheriff's office that, again, it goes back to that transparency. We've always been very transparent and open. Don't have a lot to hide behind, and we don't feel like we should be hiding behind anything. We agree with, the calls over the summer for transparency and policing, and we're absolutely proponents of that as well.
And your sheriff, excuse me, I can't remember his name, but he's been very big about using technology and getting out into the community with that technology as much as he can, correct?
Yeah, so Sheriff Naka is very, we've done a lot of different innovative things. We're very big on innovation. So we have, we've used intelligence-led policing for a while. We've also been big into mental health. Pasco County is a county of 60,000 people, but we don't have the mental health resources or the substance abuse resources that other bigger counties have. Hillsborough is a great example, just to the south of us with a much bigger population. They have a lot more resources that just haven't spread into Pasco County. So in 2019, just an example of that innovation, we developed a behavioral health intervention team, which they go out in the community for high utilizers of 911 services or people who have been Baker Acted multiple times. And they connect those to services within the community, either within our own county that maybe these people didn't know existed, or maybe they don't have a plan to get there or have never been able to get in contact with the office. They help them with that. And they also help with the homeless population and find stable housing, things of that nature. So we are extremely innovative. Social media is definitely a part of that. And some of the things we do with media relations as well is all plays back to that innovation.
So, all right, so going to that innovation with your news media and stuff, are you putting out your press releases solely on your social media and not sending them out any other way? Is that the way they get breaking news?
So we sort of do a hybrid. This is a great time to talk about this. We just had a deputy involved shooting over the weekend where you can kind of see it. It's not too far back to scroll, but we do sort of a hybrid. So we want to get the information out to our public as soon as possible. So we do that through our large social media following. We utilize Facebook mainly, and then call back a little bit on Twitter, just because the character count on Twitter is really allow us so much levity there, but we really want to break the news to the people we serve first. So first and foremost, we serve, including myself, we serve the people of Pasco County. I am, as the media relations arm, I do have to kind of look out for them. So when we put out preliminary information about what's happening, and then immediately following that, I put out we use a news service down here called Media Alert that goes straight to media entities within the Tampa Bay area. And that information was essentially copy and pasted. Here's what the preliminary information is. And the only thing I add to that is just, here is where the press conference will be. We don't openly put our press conferences out to, on Facebook and things of that nature, but we do want our media partners to know that. So that's the only thing I put in there. We also don't put out booking photos or arrest affidavits on our social media as well. So sometimes we do use that for that as well. But so I put that out. We even put out body worn camera footage of the incident a couple hours after it happened. Again, going back to that transparency, just so people could see the incident. right away. And then I media alerted again the narrative out, as well as a link to our Facebook page, so that media has to get it. But we're always breaking news first to the people we serve.
Very cool. Very cool. God, I had a question and it in and out of my ear now. That's not good. I'm getting old.
So sorry.
No, that's okay. All right. So you brought up the booking photos and stuff like that. You're not putting them out on social media. Is that because of some of the legal things that have happened in the last few years with booking photos, or is it just practice you don't do?
No, so it's actually a practice we've discontinued in recent history. So we really feel like charges get dropped sometimes. We really want to be cognizant of that. Things happen, charges get dropped, people, decline to press charges and things like that. But then the booking photos out on social media. Obviously, it's still available to media, still available on our jail website as well. But we didn't feel like we needed to be the proponent. We felt like there were other ways we could tell that story. So there are some narrow instances where we do release a booking photo. For instance, a couple of years ago, we had an active armed carjacking spree that was happening from one individual. We utilized his booking photo for that because we were actively looking for him committing these crimes. But other than that, media requests the booking photo. I don't proactively push it out even in a media release, just because we want to be cognizant of that. Mental health, Sheriff Nacco is very passionate about mental health, and we feel like this could maybe contribute if somebody's trying to recover from a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue. That's the reason they cause these crimes. We don't want to be the reason that someone may be going back to struggling with that. So I think the local media kind of was weirded out by it at first, but that now they're on board with it. And I know several of the media outlets around here don't have booking photos out, like galleries and things like that, which used to be a practice. But we're very cognizant of that. We actually do it's a little bit of a segue, but we put out a newsletter style email to local media and any media that subscribes to it through MailChimp, which is an awesome tool. I can't say enough about it. But we put out Monday through Friday a daily newsletter of sort of things happening within the sheriff's office. So before my time here, it was crimes that had happened in the community. And it was the arrest affidavit, it was the booking photo, and it was a short narrative of maybe something that happened in the community that went directly to the media every night, or every morning, I'm sorry. But when I sort of took over the unit, I felt like this was another opportunity for us to tell stories that weren't necessarily the arrests we were making. So this was our opportunity to talk about some of the great things our SROs are doing, some of the great things that our behavioral health intervention team is doing. We just opened a new substation on Friday. That's a great opportunity for us to talk about what this new substation is that popped up in our community. So we sort of transition.
So you're putting these out daily then?
Yep, Monday through Friday.
Okay, so it's almost like it was the old arrest bulletin or arrest, right?
Essentially,
incident arrest.
Yes, that's
right.
Yeah, that's sort of how it started, and then we've transitioned it more to here's what's going on at the sheriff's office. So sometimes it's a case update. Yesterday, I had a case update from the deputy involved shooting. Today, I talked about we're going to have our Marine units helping out the county parks with something. So that was the bulletin today.
Nice. All right. So, Amanda, how do you balance your work and your personal life? Because
that's very hard.
Yeah, PIO life never stops 24/7. So
it surely doesn't. I mean, I'm very fortunate in that I have worked in a lot of different careers and I have a lot of friends that are outside of law enforcement. I really appreciate my law enforcement and PIO friends, but it's really nice to sort of have that group that doesn't know what's going on or doesn't like worry about that or want to talk about that. So I have my theme park friends, I have my sports friends, and it's really great to have that sort of break. Even if I still have to answer my phone, at least I'm with other people who aren't like, oh, what's going on now or what's happening. And I'm also, again, I can't say enough about Sheriff Nacco and his focus on mental health. He really affords us those opportunities to be able to take breaks, which is why, again, I have the advantage of having someone who takes my nights and weekends for PIO a little bit, which is really nice.
Yeah, I bet it is. So it's very cool. All right, so we're going to go into some rapid fire questions here. So get ready.
Love it.
All right, so last good book you read.
So the last non-job related book I read, I'm a huge Jeopardy fan. So I've been reading Alex Trebek's book, and just the way he tells stories. I mean, if you've ever watched Jeopardy,
Yes.
you know how great he is with the stories. But the best book about sort of job related things is Contagious: Why Things Catch On by Jonah Berger, and it's all about social media and making things go viral and what makes a post sort of worthwhile to, talks about the emotional value or social currency. It's a really interesting book and a lot of ideas that can be applied.
Nice. All right, binge-worthy TV show.
So the one, I got to go with the shows that I always call my sort of palate cleanser shows. And that's what I turn on when I just need background noise or just want to decompress for the day. And that's New Girl or Schitt's Creek. And those are two fantastic shows.
They are good. Yeah, well,
you don't have to pay attention to them. And those are just easy to watch.
Yes, they are. Yes, absolutely. Bourbon, Scotch, beer, or wine?
Oh, that's a good one. So I'm going to have to go with bourbon. Pre-pandemic, I traveled to Kentucky every year. We're slowly working our way year by year through the Bourbon Trail.
Nice.
I can't say enough about Woodford Reserve. It's beautiful there. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the beer community in Tampa Bay. So we have a lot of great craft breweries here, and I'm fortunate to live close to a couple. So I got to give a shout out to the beer community in Tampa.
There you go. Do you have a personal motto?
So it's not a very uplifting or like enlightened one, but it is what it is. And the only way through it is through it. So you're given a situation. The only way to get through it is to get through it.
That's okay. Absolutely. All right. If you could spend a day in someone else's shoes, whose would they be and why?
That's a tough one because there's a lot of people I would love to meet, but not necessarily spend a whole day in their shoes. So in grad school, I was given who would I like to meet, and I would say Taylor Swift's business manager, because that seems like a very savvy person, whoever they are. Shout out to them. I don't necessarily know that I would want to spend a day in their shoes because that seems like a very busy day.
Yes, I would agree with that. If I could do anything, I would blank.
So this is probably what everyone says, but travel the world. I've been fortunate enough when I was in the sports world to travel down to Rio de Janeiro to work with the Olympic Committee pre-Olympics. And I've gone a couple other places on my own, but the world's a huge place and there's a lot of it left to see.
That's cool. Do you have a hidden talent?
So not so much anymore. When I first started here at PSO, my hidden talent was graphic design. And since we've sort of started using a lot, I brought Adobe to the office or advocated for its use. And now people are finding out about my graphic design ability. So it's less of a hidden talent, more of like a well-used talent.
Yeah. Once they find that out.
That's the only one I could think of.
Okay. Final thoughts. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Absolutely. So I think the biggest thing I've ever learned in my life is don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. I spent 6 years working in sports and I thought that was the be all end all. I have a master's degree from Georgetown University in sports industry management. So I really thought that was the career path I was going to go down. Fortunately, I have an undergrad minor in criminology. So I come from a law enforcement family. My stepfather who raised me is in law enforcement. So I just kind of knew I liked law enforcement or liked the area, but never saw myself in a career in law enforcement. And then I finally got out of my comfort zone and tried it. And it's been by far my favorite job I've ever had.
I will agree with you on that in a heartbeat. All right. So the best way people can reach you, I will put anything that anything you say, I will put out in the show notes. But if you have a preferred way of people contacting you, if they have questions about anything you're doing.
Absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn. I say I'm on LinkedIn and that I have a LinkedIn. I'm not on it all the time, but I will get back to you eventually on there. I am most active on Twitter, but fair warning, if you follow me on Twitter, you're going to get, right now it's been a lot of basketball, again, sports. You're going to get a lot of variety. I do share a lot of work stuff there as well, but I try to keep it to the main account for work, but you're going to get a lot of variety, but I'm always on Twitter.
Awesome. Amanda, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure having you. Pasco County was one of those agencies I knew I wanted to get on the podcast early. So thank you for being so gracious and coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would like to contact the show, please email us at thepiopodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to get notified of the latest episode. If you are listening on a platform that allows reviews, please give us a review. We appreciate any review, good or bad. It helps us improve on each episode. Until next time, be safe.